What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cooking with the Cop. We are going to be making a black lentil, it's also called beluga lentil salad with butternut squash. We're going to roast this just kind of like what we did the other day with our freeka, but we're going to use black lentils. Again, they're also called beluga lentils, kind of like, not to be mistaken with beluga caviar, but beluga lentils, they are black. So anyways, I've got them here soaking in some warm water. I don't know if you can see that out when you spill in the water, probably not. But here, let me do this. There it is. All right. So that's what that looks like. Soak them for about an hour. It's going to take about another hour for them to cook. So whenever you're going to make a lentil dish with the black lentils, with the beluga lentils, it does take a little bit of time, so just kind of prepare for that. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get this cut up and cubed. We're gonna get our oven set to 450 degrees. We also want to make sure that our rack is at the lower part of the oven. And let's begin. Oh, wait. I totally forgot. We got to start with our wine. All right, we still have some of this honey fly wine that I opened last night. Remember, when you're gonna take the peel off of your butternut squash, or any squash for that matter, make sure you take the bottom off and the top off, and it gives you a nice solid platform to work with. Alright, there we have it. Okay, there's our butternut squash with the peel taken off. And again, we're going to cut this in half. Again, if you watched the episode the other day, we're doing kind of just the exact same thing. One thing that I said in the last one, but it got edited out, are the seeds that you can find in these squashes. Your acorn, your pumpkin, your butternut. You can keep these seeds and dry them and roast them, and you can put them in your salads. So if you're into recycling parts of your food, this is something that you can do. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and de-seed. For those of you watching, wondering maybe if somebody's on the other end of this camera filming me because it's moving around, there isn't. I use this little device called a pivot, and it follows me around wherever I go. It's pretty cool. So it's called a pivot. Eventually, when the gym opens back up here in Washington, I may take the pivot with me, and I've got another channel called Blue Line Bodybuilding. It's a lot of fitness stuff in it. And if you're into filming your fitness routines and your workouts, a pivot would be pretty cool to have. It'll follow you around without you having to use the camera, have somebody hold the camera for you, or having to use a magnet or anything to keep the camera up. So called pivot, P-I-V-O. All right, so we're scooped out. Let's go ahead and get these cut. Last time I cut them lengthwise, so we're gonna switch up today. We're gonna cut it crosswise this time. About 1/2-inch cubes. All right, so there we have it. We have our chopped, butternut squash. We're not putting anything fancy on it this time. We're just gonna rub some olive oil on it, put some salt and pepper, and then we're gonna roast it for probably about 35-40 minutes. My oven's at 175 degrees. We're gonna wait for that to turn to 450, and we'll see you back in a little bit. Okay, now that we got the butternut squash cubed, what we're going to do is we're going to add some salt, pepper, and some oil and some balsamic vinegar. So I want to just show you guys something real quick here, because we were talking about the olive oil the other day, about what kind to use when you're cooking it or baking it versus when you're just using it as flavoring. So this Napoleon organic extra virgin oil is the one that I typically use for cooking. It's not something that I would use to heat up. You want to use, you keep your good tasting good tasting olive oils for flavoring and not for cooking necessarily. I think that when you cook some of the really good oils, it loses some of the flavor. So you want to you buy certain oils for their flavor when they're raw, if you would, or when it's raw. So same thing applies with your balsamic vinegar. So I use an organic balsamic vinegar here by Carapelli. This is what I use for cooking. All right, so this is something that's okay for me to use when I heat it up, or use it in some of my sauces that are going to be cooked or baked or roasted. This one here is Elsa balsamic vinegar, and this is really, really nice balsamic vinegar, really good flavor. I don't want to cook this one, so this is something that I would put on like my salads, especially with like my mozzarella and tomatoes and basil, stuff like that. So this is the good one. Don't cook this one. This one is still very, very good, but it's okay to cook this one. Okay, olive oil there. We use our hands. All right, once we get it all mixed in there, olive oil is great for the skin, so it's okay to rub the olive oil on if it's your thing. Some black pepper. My buddy Kaiser, who likes to cook, he's an officer at the department I work with, says, hey, you need to grind your own pepper. I agree, I like grinding my own pepper, but sometimes it's just as easy to already have some organic black pepper already ground. And if you get the good stuff and you use it a lot, then it doesn't get stale too quickly. Okay, again, here's my Mediterranean sea salt. Again, I'm going to mention Kaiser's name because he said, explain to the audience why you like to use Mediterranean sea salt versus other sea salt. You know what? I just like the bottle. I think it looks fantastic. No, I'm kidding. Mediterranean sea salt is just a general name. There's a lot of sea salts that show up looking just like this, but it's nice and coarse. In my opinion, I think that this particular type of Mediterranean sea salt grinds up really, really easy. And I mean, just what you saw me do there turned it into almost the consistency of powdered sugar. So it didn't take very much effort to make it into a powder. And then finally, we're going to use our balsamic vinegar. Okay, just about 2 teaspoons or so. Not a lot. The whole idea, of course, is just enough to get it on there to coat it. You're just using it for a little bit of flavoring. That's about it. So we're going to go ahead and get this roasted, and we'll see you back in about 45 minutes. Hey, all right, guys, welcome back. Though it's probably just milliseconds for you since my daughter edits this and it's like that to the next scene. So what we're going to do is we're going to start preparing our lentils. Again, it takes about an hour for these to cook. So I'm going to get some spices going first. We have coriander, cumin, ginger, and cinnamon. Just about 1/4 teaspoon to 1/8 of a teaspoon, depending on which spice you use. I used an 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon, and then 1/4 teaspoon of everything else, and just a little bit more coriander than I normally do. So that's about 1/2 of a teaspoon of coriander. So we're going to put this all together into an oven approved pan or pot, or it's a pan. we're going to put it in an oven-approved pan. And again, I use my all-clad because once this is done, we'll be putting it in the oven later. All right. We're also going to crush a garlic clove. You can put the whole thing in there, but crush it, skin and all. All right, and then just about, a tablespoon of oil, not too much. And we're not really sauteing the garlic or anything like that, or trying to brown or anything. We're just trying to get this nice and fragrant. So just about a minute or two, just heat it up and get it cooked just a little bit. Okay, if you're using a gas cooktop like what I've got, it heats up really quick. So just make sure you're adjusting your flame so you're not burning it. You definitely don't want to burn your spices. It will give it a flavor that you wouldn't want. Okay, it's pretty aromatic. All right, once you got those spices and garlic and all that combined and going, you're going to take your lentils. You're just going to go ahead and pour it in. You can have a little bit more in that because kind of like what we did the other day with our frika, the lentils, they're going to cook slowly, and there's still going to be some standing water in it when it's done, and you're going to end up draining this at the end. Okay, once we get the lentils and we get that poured in there, we're going to let it sit here and get it up to a simmer. And once it's at a simmer, we're going to go ahead and shut it off and put a lid on it. Once the butternut squash is done roasting, we're going to reduce the temperature down to 325 degrees, and then we're going to go ahead and put the lentils in the oven and actually bake it in the oven for about 60 minutes. Just about done here, so we're going to take the lentils out of the oven here in just a second. We're going to go ahead and cut up our red onion, some flat leaf parsley, we've got some Dijon mustard, we have our roasted butternut squash all ready to go. I've got some pepitas or pumpkin seeds that's roasting over here on the stove, or I'm sorry, on the cooktop. And nothing fancy. We're just going to chop this up, kind of a coarse chop on the onions, and same for the flat leaf parsley. Because we're all going to throw it together here shortly. Make some room here. Got my little finger protectors, and we're going to go ahead and take out our lentils, which have been baking in the oven here for about an hour. Look at that. Here in a second. That looks fantastic. All right, a little bit of moisture in there, which is to be expected. So I'm going to take this and drain it. And it's okay if it's got a little bit of water in it. That's not a big deal. All right, dump that back in. Okay, then we're going to add our roasted butternut squash. Chopped onion and our flat leaf parsley. And listen, you know if you've done good when it looks colorful like that. We're also going to add just a small little spoonful of Dijon mustard, some of our good tasting balsamic vinaigrette. All right, it's about a tablespoon or so. Got our pumpkin seeds, nice and roasted. Here, popping. Some of our good olive oil, about 2-3 tablespoons. Grab our fork and spoon again. What I like to do is I just kind of, you can't really see it in here, but what I'm doing is I'm mixing the mustard and the vinegar and oil all together in the corner here. And now I'm starting to incorporate that into the salad here. That's that. Now I'm gonna have a platter. I'm gonna transfer it to this platter, finger protectors, so I'm gonna use this cloth here and hope to God I don't burn myself. All right, got our roasted pumpkin seeds, a little bit of flat leaf parsley. There you have it. Roasted butternut squash, black beluga lentils, pumpkin seeds. Looks fantastic. I drank all my wine, so I can't cheers. So thanks for hanging out with Cooking with the Cop. Probably see you tomorrow night.